Hello everyone, I'm Kristina Livitckaia. I'm working for the Center for Research and Technology Hellas in Greece as a postdoc and project manager. And today I'm going to present the outcome of the work we have achieved so far for one of the use cases in the PharmaLedger project. Let me speak a few words about the project, our objectives, overview, and the use cases. PharmaLedger is a Horizon 2020 EU project with quite an impressive budget of 22 million euros. It is not only the budget that is impressive, but also the partnership we have in the consortium. We are 29 partners representing the pharma industry, research institutes and universities, tech and clinical SMEs, hospitals, and patient organizations. You can see all of them on the right side of the slide. Our primary focus is on the supply chain, clinical trial, and health data. And this is why we are focusing and working on various use cases that target the demands of the healthcare industry. We are about in the middle of the project timeline, which means impressive results and dissemination are coming. To be more specific about the use cases, we have the following ones in each focus group. Clinical trial recruitment, e-consent, personalized medicine, IoT and medical devices, clinical supply chain, finished good traceability, e-leaflet, or we call it EFPIA, and anti-counterfeiting. And working on all mentioned use cases, we aim to develop an ecosystem that will be based on a scalable, sustainable, beyond state-of-the-art blockchain reference architecture. Of course, to achieve our primary goal, we have many efforts organized from working on the government, the policy and the technology perspective, considering and aligning with the legal and ethical regulations, and to developing a social collaboration. Speaking of the platform and the technology, PharmaLedger adopted an open DSU-based framework. DSU stands for Data Sharing Unit, resulting from 7 years of research and development. The framework allows structuring and storing the off-chain data, and this is a key element for the platform, as in clinical trials we often deal with large amounts of data, of course depending on the use case. At this moment, most of the use cases we have in the project are working on the proof of concept or an MVP or minimum viable product, again depending on the use case. And what is important to mention is that we support an open approach in the development, meaning you can find our daily progress on GitHub. In PharmaLedger, we have a generic approach across most use cases as outlined on the slide. For example, tailoring is applied toward DSU types design or backend, or selection of the blockchain technology. So each use case has a more detailed architecture based on its specifics and needs. As mentioned, PharmaLedger is working on various use cases, actually many. As CERTH, we lead the implementation of 2 use cases, of course with a list of partners in each use case from a business and technology or implementation perspective. These use cases are clinical supply chain, or the process from requesting the drug for the clinical trial to delivering the drug to the trial participants, and e-consent, or the entire process of consenting and reconsenting by a trial participant. Let me briefly present you in a nutshell the main focus or intention we aim for each of the use cases that I mentioned. And right after, I will focus more on clinical supply chain with the solution demonstration. Well, e-consent is a lot about the trial participant. Participation in the trial depends on how the consent is prepared and received or perceived, which deals with the participants' confidence, feeling safe, and even empowered. Moreover, once the consent is signed, there are many details in the process, such as reconsenting, if any modification in the protocol, or revocation. When we discover the digital version of the consent, it is received well by all stakeholders involved, including trial participants, healthcare organizations, sponsors, CROs, ethics committees, vendors, regulatory authorities, name it. But when we add the blockchain and the new approach to the off-chain data storage, this adds a lot of value, transparency, and trust to the process, which is relevant and much needed for all stakeholders. And at this moment, the solution is already reached the proof of concept milestone. The use case is in the process of making synergy with other use cases, such as personalized medicine and medical devices and IoT. We believe in the project that synergies are essential, so we can aim for the end-to-end solution, walking through the whole clinical trial process. Another use case we lead is the clinical supply chain. For this use case, data transparency and traceability are essential, I would say, for each stakeholder involved. Even the clinical supply chain process is relatively straightforward. As a process per se, it is still very complex, costly, and slow. From the sponsor perspective, the visibility regarding the consumption of the product or drug is limited. The communication between the stakeholders requires time, not to say that the complexity that I mentioned adds a lack of synchronization between the stakeholders. Our PharmaLedger solution for this use case not only enables the blockchain technology into the process, but also offers off-chain data organization and storage. Many data elements are to be reused between the stakeholders in the clinical supply chain. Yet, many are to be individual for each end user group. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation today, we use OpenDSU technology for that. We have the roadmap for the clinical supply chain use case and many of the use cases in the project, of course, until the end of the project and even farther than that. At this stage, we are about to deliver a proof of concept, and after the POC, we will integrate our solution with a blockchain and identity management tool. So we have 4 user groups or stakeholders: sponsor or supply requester, CMO or inventory management, courier, clinical site or clinical resource. And that's it, 4 of them for now. Each stakeholder manages key entities of the clinical supply process based on the role, which are order or supply request, shipment, and kits. In the development, we have 3 epics representing the management of 3 main entities, as I previously mentioned: order, shipment, and kits. The POC is focused on the happy path, or standard scenarios you can see on the slide, and once we complete the milestone, we will move on with the fringe scenarios, such as customs, product quarantine, relabeling, and so on. We are working closely with all stakeholders representatives, so gradually we also will add some complexity to the system to ensure that all needs of the end user groups are supported, which we believe is absolutely crucial. In a nutshell, the process starts with the sponsor requesting the order to be delivered to the site. CMO receives the order and prepares it. Once it is ready, courier picks up the shipment and delivers it to the site. The site does the management of the kits until they are dispensed. Now I want to present to you some outline of the product. Please note that I will show only the key idea and some functionalities already implemented and stable in the business testing environment, but in the reality we are 98% completed the MVP. So you can see sponsor, CMO, and site courier wallets. I will show you how I'm creating the wallet. Again, that's a temporary DAD solution or identity management solution as a demo. Later on, there will be a real one and integrated with a product. So I'm opening the wallet, and then on the screen you will see the home page of the sponsor. So as you can see, the dashboard has 3 tabs, or order, shipment, kits with the statuses and filters of the statuses, new order and notifications. If I go to the CMO, which is another stakeholder we have, so I go to the dashboard, and this dashboard already pre-filled. As you saw, I created a new sponsor, but the CMO already existing user. So we have orders and shipment as the dashboard, demonstrating the functionality of the filters, which is absolutely useful tool for the stakeholder. We have notifications. So basically, if something is happening that the particular stakeholder needs to be notified, or there are particular pending actions, and the user will receive a notification. So now you can see the courier. The courier has only shipments and not kits or orders, as dealing only with this particular entity. Usually when something is ready for dispatch, the courier gets notification and then goes to the resource of CMO. And now you can see the wallet of clinical site, also already different statuses, something processed, delivered, received. Now I'm going to demonstrate you how the received entity looks like with some common shipment details and kits, which are not available at this step. We can see the history. So basically each entity created, shipment, order, or kits, they will have history with the statuses and timestamps. So from the CMO perspective, for example, I will show you how it looks inside the order. For example, approved one. So there are particular documents here, they're not attached, but there is an option I will demonstrate, and we can see the history. So the order initiated, reviewed by CMO and approved by sponsor, and then in preparation for ready for dispatch and dispatch. So that's a finished action for the CMO, nothing else is required. There are, of course, other statuses could be, for example, cancelled. So in case that, order was initiated, but has to be never delivered to the site, that has to be cancelled. So now the new order, I will show you the creation of new order. We are selecting delivery date and time, the target CMO ID, study ID. Of course, the study ID, order ID, these are already created in other systems of the sponsor entities. And later on, we are planning actually to integrate the systems. So that's something for the future after the proof of concept and MVP. The kit ID list also is coming from another system, but here we are adding the CSV file, so we can actually fully not only replicate but truly play the process. So then I have an option to attach some files. Okay, I'm just going to demonstrate how to do it, and I can delete or download to add some comments. Actually, from the stakeholders' perspective, we found that comments are essential actually to be included, because it's communication that is kept as proof of messages communicated between the stakeholders. So now I'm submitting and going to the dashboard, and you can see that this order initiated with a timestamp. And if I go to the CMO, you can see again the same order appeared on the list automatically. So if as a CMO I go to the order, and of course I need to review it, so I'm just reviewing, checking all the details, adding additional documents, for example invoices, adding some comments, all is good, should be, always. So then I'm proceeding, seeing, of course, the summary of the comments, and then submitting the review. And then if I go to the sponsor page, wallet again, I can see automatically updated status. And then let's say I want to cancel it. Of course, I want to check all the comments or documents. So I'm canceling, and I'm adding some message to it, some reason of the cancellation. So once it is cancelled, of course it will be automatically sent as notification to the CMO, and we can see the status is here. So also going the same for the CMO, immediately the last modification, the cancelled status, notification. Yeah, you can see some of them we already checked together with you. So that's the latest update. This is from the sponsor when the CMO reviewed. That was a notification as well, sent on time. And I think that's it from the demonstration. We try to do our best to keep you updated with our progress. Let's move on. And of course, it is crucial to speak of the lessons we learned during the development of the use cases up to the moment, which is a proof of concept stage for us. I believe that would be of value for the majority of the conference participants, I hope. What is important to mention is that we work with relatively new technologies, and of course, all the recommendations or suggestions that you would hear from me later on are coming about general experience in such learning and not tailored to a particular technology. So what we believe could be considered by other teams is the following: involve as many stakeholders as possible and learn the workflows of each user group. The requirements on a high level are always coming from the business, but if we want the technology to be accepted from the end user's perspective, the persons who are literally going to utilize the platform, the solution, the product, it should be integrated in the best possible way in the routine of these end users. So the more key persons we involve, especially coming with different settings of the work routine, the better we learn and can adapt the product. Second, the decision of the blockchain technology use and the final architecture should be a joint decision. We aim to adapt the solution by other key players, such as couriers like DHL in the clinical supply chain use case, for example, so the configuration and scalability matter. Following up with the previous statement that I just made, I would like to highlight that when we think of the solution, it should work and bring value to all stakeholders' routine and mainly not overwhelm with a number of solutions the end users might already have or manage. It is very much related to the integration question, of course, but we will not actually open up the subject now and leave it for another discussion, I hope. Third, when making a final technology decision, consider the system to be in full use with lots of data involved. So if we try to foresee potential issues that we might have when the system or product will be fully deployed and loaded, if I may say that, it might play a game-changing role. Some technologies or decisions of their particular application might bring more obstacles for the adoption in the end. But of course, it depends on the underlying research purposes as well. Also, I would like to bring your attention to the governance, which is becoming quite a hot topic right now when we discuss the blockchain. So consider the governance and the solution early. The governance model and the parties to be involved in the future policy making should be defined earlier in the development of the product. Of course, if the solution is considered promising beyond the pilot. It depends on the aim of the business. User experience. Don't underestimate user experience. The look and feel make the difference even when we discussing the solution at the proof of concept stage. And of course, the features should be tailored to the actual needs of the users and reflect the vocabulary they used to. Otherwise, due to the simple wrong labeling of the button, for example, the whole value of the feature or tool might be lowered. And last but not least, people motivation matters. When it comes to learning, motivation is one of the critical factors for success, and our experience confirmed it once again. I believe that the majority of the participants, listeners today, have gone through this stage as well. The best outcome is achieved when people want to learn, they have passion for improving, and care for the final result in the product development. So please consider that. And before finishing the presentation, I would like to give appreciation to the whole project and all partners involved. And of course, I would like to thank key team members in the implementation team of the clinical supply chain use case, including CERTH, ROMsoft, and PDM. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for your attention. If questions are allowed, I would be happy to answer any of those from the audience. Thank you very much for your time.